So the U.S. will aggressively revoke Chinese student visas. Why? What? I don't understand a lot of stuff that's going on. Someone explain to me why they will be doing that. Like, what's the importance? What's the significance behind stopping these kids from having an education in America? Grown adults, but still, you know what I mean? It's still the same thing. Like, why you, come on, man.
I don't know if you heard the news, but U.S. basically canceled a bunch of Chinese student visa. And at surface, you're like, oh, what's the big deal? It's actually huge. Let me explain why. I know why U.S. want to cancel, because it's some government official be like, oh, the Chinese students are coming here studying and taking advantage of our school system, and then go back to China and copy our ideas and blah blah blah. That's just the blunt kind of lack of understanding of how technology and how society really works. Why it's important to not think that way is because literally, if you look at the top professors, scientists that are living in US, you look at the credential, how they became who they are, almost all of them are from China. It's crazy. Like that one guy, look him up. He is literally the only guy, well, he's the one who invented it. He figured out how evolution works, and he's changing our DNA. Yeah, it's nuts. Like he's studying at, I forget, one of the fancy schools in US. There's another guy, they actually just like, I don't know, they fired him recently. He single-handedly is basically protecting all of us from like data privacy and security threats. Again, another Chinese American professor. I'm just giving you an example because not just Chinese people, but like everyone comes to US to learn, to have this opportunity to advance in technology for all of us, society. And they live here in US because they want to raise their kids here. And they feel safe. They feel like US have taken care of them. So they raise their family. Their kids are going to school here. And their grandkids are going to school here. But when you block that access, you disconnect the world. It's a huge disruption, not to just US and China, but the whole world. So anyways, it's a terrible news, and I hope they revert it back.
Chinese internationals are some of the smartest people I've ever worked with. And who are you going to replace them with? We in America burn books, force the Bible into our curriculums, and our Secretary of Education doesn't even know what AI is.
Okay, let's see A1 and how.
A1 steak sauce.
Also, how would you know if any Chinese students or workers have ties to the Chinese government? It just sounds like an excuse to deport anyone you want to. We are quickly becoming the very countries we've been taught to despise growing up.
The Chinese embassy in the United States firmly opposes U.S. State Department's plan to revoke Chinese students' visas, which is a politically motivated and discriminatory action. Such a move by the U.S. side will seriously undermine the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese students in the U.S.
America has made a bold and controversial move, and the world is paying close attention. Under President Trump's leadership, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has publicly announced that the United States will begin aggressively revoking visas for Chinese students, specifically targeting those with alleged links to the Chinese Communist Party or connections to research partnerships associated with the Chinese government. Now, this is not a routine immigration update. This is a seismic policy shift, one with immediate consequences for higher education, global diplomacy, and the lives of thousands of individuals. For context, China is the largest sender of international students to the US, accounting for more than 270,000 students in 2023-2024 academic year. That is nearly 1 in every 4 international students. This is where the controversy begins. On the other hand, we are dealing with real people, young adults, who come to the US in pursuit of opportunity, education, and a better future. Now, many are suddenly facing expulsion or rejection, not based on individual wrongdoing, but based on alleged affiliations. This is not about catching spies. It's about cutting off access based on potential or perceived threat. Secretary Rubio's words were forceful. He made it clear that the US State Department, in coordination with the Department of Homeland Security, would begin systemically revoking student visas. The justification comes in part from a recent House Republican report claiming that hundreds of millions had been funneled into academic research partnerships linked to the Chinese government. The concern, according to the report, is that these arrangements could give China a backdoor into sensitive American innovation. And so, the message is clear. America is closing ranks. The question is, are we doing so responsibly? Because when policy gets aggressive, mistakes happen, lines get blurred. In trying to protect national interest, we risk creating a climate of fear, suspicion, and overreach. We risk sending the message that an entire demographic, Chinese students, are inherently suspect. That is a dangerous and deeply divisive place to go.
Will also further damage the image and reputation of the U.S. itself. The Chinese embassy in the United States has lodged a solemn démarche with the U.S. side without delay, urging the U.S. government to immediately correct its mistakes and ensure the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese students. This is all undeniably true. The United States could stand to learn a thing or two from China. As the United States further falls into protectionist and isolationist foreign policy, China, on the other hand, recently added 47 countries to its visa-free access list, making it a more opening and welcoming place. While the United States focuses on competition between each other and foreign nations, China focuses on improving the lives and conditions for all of its people.
You won't believe the extent to where Trump is actively making China great again, as now Hong Kong's chief executive says that university students that are facing discrimination within the states are now more than welcome to come to China.
Who face difficulties to study or continue their studies in the U.S. universities. We welcome them to come to Hong Kong to continue their studies in our universities. We'll do all our best to facilitate and assist any students who suffered from this discriminatory and unfair treatment.
Now, this obviously comes after Trump's increased student visa restrictions, including the international student Harvard ban. Now, besides the fact that China is trying to take advantage of every opportunity that Trump is trying to miss, including the invaluable cultural exchanges and international intellectual knowledge that is funneled through higher education, but unironically, in this isolated event, China is actually protecting freedom of education a lot better than what we are seeing and hearing from America right now. And I'm not even talking about the gutting of the DOE. And listen, I don't take any pride in saying this. This is terrifying to see, as if we're shifting into a new world order in real time. But as of right now, all it feels like we could do is cross our legs and literally watch China and the rest of the world take advantage of America's misfortune.
So there has been rising tension between the US and China for years. Trade war, cybersecurity breaches, allegations of intellectual property theft, military posturing in the South China Sea, COVID-19 blame narratives. All of these conflicts have created a geographical powder keg, and education, of all things, has become the latest battleground. This policy, like many under the Trump administration, is blunt. It doesn't leave much room for nuance, and that's part of what makes it so controversial. Yes, the US government has a duty to protect national security. Yes, there are well-documented cases of academic espionage, but let's also be honest about something else. Most international students are not spies. We have to ask ourselves, are we protecting America, or are we compromising the very values that made America a global education superpower to begin with? Because here's what we don't talk about enough. Universities in the US rely heavily on international students, not just for cultural enrichment, but financially. International students often pay full tuition. Their enrollment supports entire departments, funds research, pays faculty salaries, and helps keep tuition lower for domestic students. Lose them and you lose a major pillar of higher education system. And it goes deeper than just dollars. Many Chinese students go on to work in American companies, start businesses, file patents, contribute to cutting-edge research in fields like medicine, engineering, and computer science. In many ways, they have helped fuel American programs.
They said in the article that they were targeting people who had connections to like the Communist Party, And then also it said that they would be looking at students who were in critical fields, but it didn't define what those meant. The Times was thinking that they meant people in the physical science kind of world. It's just very concerning. Like, this administration has pushed a lot of like anti-Asian rhetoric. For those that don't know, like, I'm married to a man who is part Chinese. So this really like makes me mad. My father-in-law came to the United States from China back in like, I don't know, 70s. He came here for college and he met my mother-in-law and, you know, they got married. He is a citizen now. He's actually a pastor. He went to like seminary school and he, you know, is a pastor for some international populations, but also just like, you know, like standard evangelical, whatever, non-denominational churchgoers too. And it's just very frustrating to hear that this administration is just continuing to push this like anti-Asian, anti-Chinese rhetoric again. A lot of times people in this administration like to push, you know, information or misinformation, whatever, that, you know, Chinese people, they think that people from China are all spies. It's completely garbage. Like, there's so many smart, well-intentioned people that want to come from China to the United States to study and to potentially stay here and have a better life. You know, it's just, it's sad to me that this is where we are, but I guess I can't say that I'm surprised. So we will see what happens with that. It's just very frustrating. Like I said, for personal reasons, it hits me a little bit harder, but also like this kind of thing will impact our healthcare field. I don't know the exact numbers, but we do have a lot of people that come from China to come to the US for medical school, or, you know, to do like a PhD program where they are studying like science that is important for like cancer research or other, you know, treating other diseases. We're going to miss out on some really intelligent, incredible people from this. And I just think it's really wrong. So, I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know if the courts can fight back in some way here, but I'm just very sick of this administration being anti-Chinese, anti-Asian. You know, some people just want to come here to study and to have a better life. Not everyone is a spy or like a bad person. So
Yes, protect national secrets. Yes, investigate partnerships that pose risks. Yes, screen applicants thoroughly, but revoking visas based on vague associations or political criteria, that's not national security. That's fear-driven policy making. And history tells us that that never ends well. Remember Japanese internment during World War II. Remember McCarthyism. America has seen moments like this before, when fear overtook judgment and entire communities were scapegoated for the actions of a few. We look back at those moments with regret. We teach our kids about them as cautionary tales. Let's not make the same mistake again, just dressed up in the modern clothes. We must demand balance. There has to be room for both vigilance and fear and fairness, for national security and individual rights, for protection and due process. Because at the end of the day, if America wants to lead in the 21st century, it can't just lead with force. It must lead with values, with integrity, with a moral compass that doesn't waver every time the winds of global tension shift direction. This visa revocation policy is not just a bureaucratic change. It's a statement of intent, a signal to the world that America is choosing caution over openness, defense over diplomacy. That might win political points in the short term, but what about the long-term costs? We may lose more than just students. We may lose trust. We may lose the very thing that has always set America apart, our belief that anyone from anywhere can come here, contribute, and thrive. The United States is standing at a crossroads. The decision to revoke visas isn't just about national security, it's about national identity. What kind of country do we want to be? One that reacts with fear, or one that responds with clarity, precision, and principle? That's the conversation we need to have, not just in Washington, but in classrooms, communities, and across every institution that values knowledge, innovation, and fairness. Because the world is watching, and so are the students. And in the years to come, they will remember not just what we did, but why we did it. And that, more than anything else, will define America's legacy in this chapter of global history. Guys, drop a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. And also remember to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time, bye-bye.